Imam Hussein Media Group, out of respect to its audience, wants to be available anytime, anywhere. Our worldwide viewers, and in particular North America, can watch our channel.
The love and the mahabba and the mawadda for Imam al-Hussein, which is in the heart. Therefore, the tear is an expression of this firmly deep-rooted love that lies in the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the emotion of love so powerful in that if it is manifested through a tear, this tear has the potential to cause revolutions that will cause earthquakes and bring the thrones of the tyrants crashing down to ash and dust.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show. We do take in all of your questions. If you have any question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp, the email address. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. Alternatively, you can give us a call here in the studio, +44 203 515 0199. Inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer any of your questions. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah. Fine.
MashaAllah, excellent. Sheikhna, now back home, and it's still common today, that one may have more than one wife. And sometimes, the wives get pregnant at a similar time. Now, if a man has more than one wife and each of them breastfeeds a baby from other parents according to the said criteria, would the children become mahram to each other?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi al-Tahirin. Wa la'natullahi ala a'da'ihim ajma'in. Well, all the children in which who were given the breastfeeding from different women or wives, they become mahram to other children as well. So to each other as children, also mahram to those who were given the breastfeeding.
Okay, so
the women
mothers,
as well.
all of the mothers.
Yeah, exactly, because you have the same father, and they belong to this father.
Yes.
And of course, they are the wives of this individual. So yes, there's a mahramiyya in this as a result of the breastfeeding.
Excellent. Sheikh, now we've got some questions coming in from the WhatsApp. I'll start with this one. Deodorants and perfumes and aftershave, Islamically, are we allowed to use the ones that have an ingredient of alcohol in them?
There's no objection with using these types of perfumes, soaps, shampoos, which has alcohol. That alcohol used is basically industrial and tahir alcohol. Unless somebody discovers that they're using intoxicating type of alcohol within some of these items, then of course you have to avoid it. But in general and overall, these perfumes with alcohol are tahir and allowed to be used.
Sheikh, another question from the WhatsApp. If someone gives a pill to his partner to prevent pregnancy, what does Islam say about this? Is it a sin in Islam? So contraceptive pills, are they permissible to be used in Islam?
If they are the type of temporary contraception and avoidance of pregnancy for a short period of time, then it's allowed. But if it's a permanent, it's not allowed.
Okay.
So it depends. If they are just temporarily, that should be fine.
I think there's two things also need to mention. Number one, there has to be mutual consent. And secondly, please see your doctor before taking any form of contraceptive pills. There are some side effects to them. Sheikh, a question from one of the WhatsApp, one of our viewers, sorry. Is it permissible to eat or drink something that causes ihtilam, ejaculation during sleep? Now, this happens a lot, especially when we go for, ziyarah and things like that. I remember with the brothers and so forth, very cautious of what they were eating because they didn't want to wake up najis and so forth. But Islamically speaking, if we have an idea, something sweet or something that's very greasy or something will contribute to us to definitely, cause a wet dream or something. Is it actually haram, and should we stay away from eating certain items?
No, there is no objection. The one can consume any type of food they like, even if they think that they might get that ejaculation or feeling of a wet dream later on during the night, for example. That should be fine, and that's not masturbation, by the way. Some might think that it could be some kind of, preparation for this act, but it's not. So yes, they can eat, consume the food and drink that causes this issue during the night, and it's not haram. You just have to go and do the ghusl of wajib and come back. And
it's funny you mentioned masturbation, because the second question for one of our viewers is masturbation permissible if it is by imagining a woman or such like? So fantasizing and so forth, and masturbating at the same time. Is this Islamically acceptable?
No, it's not permissible at all. The act of masturbation is haram, is severely prohibited and disliked and discouraged. The one should avoid this act, and they should seek على كل حال the halal way, which is the marriage.
Yes.
Or if they can't, they have to fast. على كل حال, and seek medical advice as well from the doctors.
Yes. For those brothers that may have such issues or finding, these testing times, please check out the NoFap movement available online. There are many, benefits and techniques to help you from avoiding masturbation. Sheikhna, a wife neither obeys her husband nor fulfills her marital duties. She also goes out without his permission to stay with her own family for several months. Then, instead of having recourse to Islamic laws, she goes to a non-Islamic court in order to get spouse maintenance, custody of the children, and divorce from her husband. Does such a wife have the right in getting anything from her husband? In such a situation, when she goes to a non-Islamic court, it would apply non-Islamic laws to grant her divorce and her rights, spousal support and custody of children. Does she deserve her full spousal rights? According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani.
His Eminence mentions that with regard to the spousal maintenance, she doesn't deserve to get it, because from the Sharia point, because she's already married to an individual husband who will be or should be maintaining her at that time. But she left the house. She, ignored his, let's say, advice or whatever was the dispute about. So she doesn't deserve to be getting this income على كل حال from whatever organization. But when it comes to her mahar, to her dowry, no, the story is different. That's her right. Also, the child custody, which is under 2 years, as the Sayyid mentions, then she needs to get that. You can't suspend that. That's her right. But that income, no, she didn't deserve it. Because she's got somebody who maintains her, and that is her husband, basically.
Sheikh, a question from the WhatsApp. Is it permissible to buy or sell Bitcoin or Dogecoin? Is it permissible to deal with cryptocurrencies? Now, cryptocurrency, Sheikh, is like a new currency that's not really backed by any government. Ethically wise, the only issue they have is to do with the environment. Sometimes it's very, very expensive in terms of electricity and gas to actually produce these cryptocurrencies. And the cryptocurrencies are made via, computers and serving and algorithms to work out something and so forth. Similar to stocks and shares, cryptocurrency is a big, big phenomenon at the moment. A lot of people are investing. Is it halal for Muslims to get involved?
In overall, what the ulama say that if it's like the stock exchange, the stock investment, and the business is halal business, so they don't sell alcohol, for example. They don't trade with alcohol. Then it should be halal, halal trade, as long as it's there's على كل حال halal investment. It should be fine.
Okay. Sheikh, does hatred and dispute between two faithfuls have any position in the religion of Islam?
Of course, there's no place for it in Islam. In fact, in Nahj al-Balagha we read that Imam Ali alayhi salam on his last days of his life, when he was struck by Ibn Muljam la'anahullah, on the morning of the 20th or 19th على كل حال of the month of Ramadan, he advises his son Hassan Hussein alayhim salam with this advice, that he said, I heard your grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says, إصلاح ذات البين أفضل من عامة الصلاة والصيام. To reconcile between two individuals, let's say between a husband and wife, a brother and a sister, a friend, a colleague at work, for example, to bring them together as, again, brothers and sisters in iman and faith, or husband and wife, is better than general fasting and praying. And that's a great issue, because imagine that you have mustahab salah in specific days of the month of Ramadan or of the year. Imagine that you've been given two options, either to do these mustahabbat of salah, let's say 100 rak'ah on the night of Qadr, or to go and to bring two individuals together and reconcile and bring them together again as brothers and sisters or husband and wife. And that this is greater, as greater thawab. So there's a social emphasis on, in terms of reconciliation between the mu'mineen. إنما المؤمنون أخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم. Reconcile their brothers and sisters with each other. So we have to work in this aspect, so that we nurture and provide and educate a faithful and a society in which can avoid corruption and deviation.
Inshallah. Question for one of our viewers, Sheikhna. Can I follow a prayer leader if I do not know what he is, or that he is adil? In the opinion of His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sistani, Imam and Jama'ah don't know if he's adil or not. Are we allowed to pray behind him?
The Sayyid clearly mentions that you must make sure that he is adil and just.
Oh wow.
Yes, you cannot follow somebody who you don't know. Just go and pray behind him without asking, without having basic knowledge. You don't have to go through his profile or to read his mind, for example. No, in overall, you ask the people around him, is he adil, for example, or if you know the individual, you can check his background. Just roughly, just basic information about that he has no major sins. That's the adala, basically. No major consecutive and continuous sins.
Yes.
He doesn't drink, for example.
In public.
In public and so forth. So that should be fine, and you can follow that imam in overall. But you have to make sure also that, as the Sayyid mentions, that he recites the dhikr and the surah correctly. He doesn't make mistakes.
Yes.
Otherwise you can't follow him again.
Yes.
Same problem.
Nice, excellent. Sheikh, we're going to go to a short break. We're going to leave you with a small video to watch. Inshallah, we'll join you after this VT plays. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars.
Is it permissible to plant trees by or over
Islam
the
established based on peace and
Is it
non-violence?
permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim countries?
Is there an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS. the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. There you saw in the video that we take your questions. Any questions you have now, we don't need to know your name. We don't need to know where you're asking from. We don't need any of those information. Just send in your questions anonymously. Send it via the WhatsApp, the email address. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your question in the comment section. If you want to give us a call, 0203 515 0199. Inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, my brother is about 17 years old and he is a bit stubborn, and our family is very observant and religious and does not tolerate deviation. The problem is that my brother is going astray bit by bit, and my parents are very upset about this, to the extent that they became harsh with him. But instead of reforming him, this approach exacerbates the situation. How should we deal with him?
Basically, harshness and using strong language or even body language, in terms of bodily harming this child or this youth, that wouldn't fix the issues, and it could go even worse. He could be stubborn in his notions and thoughts, and he might even go against the whole religion and leave the religion and become, let's say, an na'udhu billah, atheist. No, the best way is, as the Quran mentions, that invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and nice preaching. So we have to use wisdom, hikmah, at all stages. You can't just force the child or force the youths and teens to pray, force them to fast, force them to read Quran. Otherwise we smack them, we beat them. That's wrong. You have to start from early ages, 6, 7, nicely bring them to the mosque, to the Islamic centers, let them listen to the lectures today. Alhamdulillah, we have English lectures, for those who speak English, and they can learn. Alhamdulillah, the social media there, the YouTube there, lots of information, lots of resources for all types of age ranges, and there's no issue in this regard that one can gain whatever knowledge they want from anywhere, any source. So the best thing is to use the right methods and tools in attracting them, rather than scaring them with, for example, threatening them or smacking them. Na'udhu billah.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, is it is it permissible to sell squid and fish which have no scales to those who consider it permissible for consumption? Example, Sunnis and non-Muslims. I would like the opinion of Sayyid Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id Hakim.
Sayyid Hakim mentions that no, it's not permissible, even to those who consider it as halal in their faith and in their madhab. But I've read one of the ulama mentions that it's haram for those who follow Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the followers of Ahlul Bayt. But for other madhahib or religions, you can sell them. Because in their faith, it's halal for them.
Halal, yes.
So alzamuhum, we have to basically be allowed to sell them. As I've said before, the only exceptions are the pork and alcohol. You can't sell it to anybody.
Dogs as well.
Even the atheists. You can't sell them pork. You can't serve them pork on the table, or alcohol. Other than that, there's ikhtilaf, between the ulama, that can you serve, haram meat, let's say haram beef burger, or the chicken burger, for example, or not.
Sheikh, as polygamy is not permitted in European law, a Muslim man is forced to lie to the authorities if he wishes to marry another woman as a second wife while keeping the first. He is required by law to pronounce the divorce of his wife, so that 6 months after his legal divorce he can marry the other woman. In this way he keeps the two wives. However, if his case is exposed, he would be prosecuted. Is such a divorce valid in this scenario?
Well, initially such a divorce is not valid. It has to go through a Shari'i court or Shari'i way of divorce, by the Hakam Shara, or by his rep, or by somebody who represents the Sharia, to go and ask for divorce, for example. You can't ask divorce through the governmental courts. That's not accepted. And number two is that it is not allowed to distort the image of Islam in this way. You can't do these things in the name of Islam, and then if you're caught, then, na'udhu billah, that's going to be in the name of Islam, that he tries to fraud and to use all aspects of illegal ways in which to satisfy his own interests. So always to be use the right method and way in which you can live happily and also avoid future family disputes that might be caused as a result of these acts, which we've seen, noticed, people eventually divorced after a few years. So.
Also, Sheikhna, according to his eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id Hakim, is it obligatory for the son to obey his parents?
Well, the Sayyid mentions that it is wajib, obligatory for the son or daughter to obey their parents if that causes disobedience or uquq or harm to the parents. It is known as ta'adhi, that causes harm, annoying them in somehow. Ala kulli hal. He wants to do something that will annoy his parents, with purpose. He wants to do this with purpose. So in this situation, the one should basically avoid annoying them or making them ungrateful, for example, which is to be considered as an offense and sin as well. So ta'adhi, or causing annoyance and harm to them, of course, it is not allowed, which causes uquq of the walidain. But in overall, it is not wajib basically to obey parents other than that doesn't causes harm. Let's say my parents say you have to study medicine, and I say I don't want to study medicine, I want to study, let's say, computing. I like computing, I like history. So you can, for example, in somehow with again using the wisdom billati hiya ahsan, and the nice and a good method, tell them that I can't study medicine. I can't even accept medicine as a part of my even career in future. So yes, you can avoid listening to them and basically study whatever you want.
Yes.
Because that's your future, not their future. And likewise, some ulama say about also marriage, that they can't force you to get married to a specific girl. Let's say his cousin. I'm not forced to marry this individual. I don't want her, for example. So, but all these aspects and issues should be dealt with wisdom, with respect, with leniency, with humility towards the parents. Try to offer the best image, the best solution to this issue. Otherwise, things might get na'udhu worse, and you might reach to the position of uquq or causing harm to the parents.
I see. Sheikh, a question from one of our viewers. I see people raise their hands in qunut in different ways during prayer. Can you please show us what is the recommended way in hadith to position your hands in qunut?
And overall, to position your hands just in front of your face in this way, stretch your both hands, and start saying the dhikr, Rabbana atina or salawat or whatever mustahab dhikr is there.
If my memory serves me correctly, His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi, Hafadullah, he mentions that the palm should be facing the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the palm should be facing the sky. So it doesn't really matter how high you go, but the palms normally have to touch this, face the sky. Second question from one of our viewers, Sheikhna. How do the halal and kosher rules differ, and can a Muslim eat kosher food? I think from my knowledge, they're very similar, the halal and the kosher methodology, in terms of how they slaughter the animal, the removing of the blood and so forth. However, our conditions, that we have, one is that the person who is slaughtering has to be a Muslim.
Exactly.
Furthermore, they have to say Bismillah. They have to be facing the Qibla. Also, the animal has to be facing the Qibla and so forth. I don't really think these are done with the kosher standard of sacrificing an animal.
I mean, even if you bring a Jewish butcher and slaughters a sheep or a cow towards the Qibla with the Bismillah, it's not accepted because he's a Jewish. And the condition is that to be Muslim.
So the person that is actually performing the slaughtering has to be a Muslim. So yes, kosher meat not acceptable, not permissible not halal for Muslims to eat. Sheikhna, if it was salah time when I traveled away from my place of residence without performing the salah there, and then I arrived at my destination, do I perform my salah in full for I left my hometown after the adhan time, or do I shorten because I have traveled the prescribed distance? A lot of people ask this question because they get muddled between the fasting rule of traveling and also the salah of traveling. So when it comes, I beg your pardon, when it comes to fasting, if you leave after the dhuhr time, you have to continue your fast. You don't break the fast. Whereas with salah, Sheikhna?
Yeah, basically if he leaves his hometown after adhan al-dhuhr, he doesn't pray at home, but he wants to pray in his destination.
Yes.
Of course, he now becomes a musafir, a traveler, and he needs to shorten his salah. Although when he left his hometown, it was adhan time. He must have prayed in full, but he didn't pray it. He prayed it in his destination, then he prays it as qasr, short, but he can pray in full by making the intention of staying 10 days or more in that place. Then you can pray in full. So let's say you want to travel from London to Manchester, and you want to stay in Manchester for a few days. You still have to pray short, your salah and qasr. But to pray in full, you have to stay at least 10 days with the intention of staying there for 10 days, then you can pray in full.
Sheikh, I've got a question here from one of the viewers. How can one speak without publicly revealing your name? In other words, can you block your name? So I'm guessing this person, I'm not talking about here on Ahkam SOS where we don't ask for people's names, but in general, a Muslim person, are they allowed to, not publicly give out their name? Are they allowed to, refrain from using their name? Maybe for like, when it comes to documents and passports and things like that, are they, Islamically speaking, do we have to give our names?
I mean, this is your own privacy. I mean, we can't breach your privacy and force you to name yourself or show up your name and so forth, unless it's to do with being a witness, for example, in qada and in judging, for example, in marriage, for example, who is the person we're going to do aqd to, nikah to? Is it A or B or C?
Yeah. So
in some cases, you have to mention your name, identify the person, so we know that we're doing the aqd of nikah for Mr. A or Mr. B.
Yeah, ahsan.
So it depends really, situation.
Another question from one of the viewers: can a Shia Muslim pray in a Sunni mosque? Excellent question, Sheikhna. A lot of us here in the West, especially in London, there are far more Sunni mosques available, which are open to the public as well. So sometimes when we're around London, we're working and so forth, we need to pray salah, it's time for salah. The closest mosque is a Sunni mosque. Are we allowed to go in and pray?
Definitely. I mean, I've prayed in many Sunni mosques when I used to travel, for example.
Yes.
The best place to pray is there because you have the mosque, mashallah. It's all pure tahir.
Yeah.
There's a washing
the facilities are made.
Easily, it's all clean, mashallah. You can pray, there's no issue with it. You can pray, yes.
Excellent.
But farad, of course, not jama'ah. Farad, by yourself, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. In regards to restaurants providing halal meat only or partly, can we eat there if they are non-Muslims and alcohol is served there as well? Good question, Sheikhna. So Sheikhna, a place where they are providing halal meat, but the owners may not be Muslim, and also alcohol is served there. I mean, I can mention some names, I'm not going to, but there's very, very famous restaurants. They serve lemon and herb and things like that. They're not Muslim owners. The meat is halal, but they also serve alcohol. Are we allowed to go and eat at those establishments?
In this case, you have to investigate and find out more. You can't just go blindly and just eat, because they're not Muslims. And
so it needs to be
as a precaution, at least you have to go and
certification.
I mean, you have to do some research with this regard.
Okay.
If he's a Muslim, there's no issue with it. Muslim, he's offering you halal food and he's saying it's halal, that's fine.
I mean, we had this discussion the other day with the brothers as well. A lot of people don't understand that. Why do I need to further investigate if they're saying it's halal? It's halal, but the reality is that non-Muslims don't understand the Sharia law that goes behind having a halal diet. Yeah, it's all well and good that you have sourced halal meat, but that doesn't mean that there's no such thing as cross-contamination. They cook pork on the grill, they're now putting your halal meat on the same grill. That grill is najis, and that meat's become najis. You're not allowed to eat that meat. Furthermore, do they understand the other, ahkam that comes around halal meat and so forth? Yeah, they used halal meat in the food, but they poured wine in it as well, part for their cooking and everything. So that's made the whole food najis. So this is why it's very important that you do a bit more further investigation when it comes to non-Muslims who are serving halal food, inshallah. Sheikhna, is it obligatory to set aside the cost of the obligatory Hajj that is deceased, that the deceased, the marhum, has missed, as well as the debts and the religious dues such as Khums zakah from the original assets of the deceased?
Yes, of course, it is obligatory and wajib to set aside this amount, even if he did not wrote that in his will, because these are huquq, must be paid to the debtors, for example, khumuz, zakat, and so forth. You have to put aside and pay these dues.
Sheikhna, question from one of our viewers, which has just come recently. Okay, what is the best resource to learn about Shia Islam?
MashaAllah, everywhere you go, you'll find resources in, for example, satellite channels. Now the IPTV is serving lots of Shia channels in all languages, in Urdu, in Farsi, in Arabic, English, in Turkish, as we have now in Imam Hussein TV. The internet is full of information, PDFs of books, thousands of books are available to download. The best thing is to go to the Google and search about the topic and write, let's say at the end, Shia, for example. Let's say marriage and then Shia. So it tells you about the marriage and the Shia.
Just in case this person didn't write the question or didn't mean this, maybe they were asking, maybe you could recommend them a book or somewhere to learn a bit more about Shia Islam. Anything off the top of your head you can direct them with?
They can go to alislam.org.
Okay.
One of the best sources for the books of the Shia and the ulama of the Shia. There are lots of books. They have to choose the topic.
I see.
Hadith,
Quran,
tafsir,
history, Quran,
and so forth. All there, inshallah.
Understood. Continuation question from the one in regards to restaurants and non-Muslims serving halal food. If there are non-Ahl al-Kitabi serving halal meat in their restaurant, can you ask if their cook is Ahl al-Kitab or not? Or is it not appropriate to? So we've gone to a restaurant, maybe the servers are not Muslim, maybe they're not from the Ahl al-Kitab neither. Is it okay to ask, look, is your chef from a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim? Or do you think this is not appropriate and you shouldn't ask this question?
No, you can ask. I mean, there's no issue with it. But as long as you haven't seen them touching, for example, the food with their wet hands, for example, then everything is tahir. And I've mentioned this, that we had a question last week about an Indian brother who used to go to the restaurants and eat, and he was asking about this issue. So Rasulullah mentioned that everything is tahir unless you're sure it's najis and impure. So if you're sure, you've seen it with your own eyes, avoid it. But otherwise, you can eat, fried, let's say fried vegetables. You can consume them from the non-Muslims.
Yes, I see. Sheikhna, is cooking with alcohol okay? I guess this is drinking alcohol because that's the only one that people can consume.
Yes, yeah.
It is used quite a lot in cooking, especially in Western cooking, Southern French cooking, which is very, very famous, and stuff like that. Some may argue that, oh no, you pour the alcohol here and the alcohol is burned off. And in fact, in culinary school, when you learn to cook in chef schools and so forth, they teach you that when you pour the alcohol, you have to burn off the alcohol. The alcohol has to evaporate and go because it's too bitter for the food and the taste. So, is it halal for us to consume these foods or not?
Well, the minute this liquid substance touches the food, it becomes najis.
Yeah.
Although it's going to
evaporate
in a few seconds, but it becomes najis. This food is najis now and haram to consume.
Okay, nice and easy. Sheikhna, you mentioned that going to a Sunni mosque is allowed for a Shia to go, and it's allowed for them to pray there. It is they can pray separately, as in by themselves.
Yes.
And if they're in Jama'ah, you pray with the niyyah of farada.
Exactly. Yes.
Someone has asked, so you cannot pray Jummah prayer at a Sunni masjid?
You can pray, but not with them. You are not allowed to follow the Sunni Imam.
Okay.
If you're Shia of Ahlul Bayt, you only are allowed to follow the Shia Imam. Likewise, they do the same with us. They don't pray behind us.
Yes.
That their salah will be batil. So anyhow, we can't pray behind them. The salah is batil.
Question for one of our viewers, hopefully will be coming up on the screen as well. Is it permissible for a man to make a will that stipulates that all his assets will go to his wife after his death?
Well, the will is applicable to only 1/3 of his remaining assets. So he can write in the will, yes, that I want to give my wife this much, but only 1/3. And the other 2/3, he needs permission, or in somehow to be given the permission from, if it's after death, the consent and the agreement from the heirs and the inheritors. If they said yes, he can. Otherwise, only 1/3 of the deceased can be given to the wife, or as a gift, and so forth.
Another question from one of our viewers: what is the ruling if the clothes of the musalli had cat's hair on it while praying? From the opinion of His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Ishaq al-Fiyad.
The Sheikh mentions that the salah will be void and batil, although the hair is tahir. So his salah will be batil.
Okay, so
to repeat. Yes.
Okay. What are the desirable acts to be performed for the one who has just died?
Basically, the minute the one passes away from this world, is mustahab to shut his eyes and lips, as you know that some people die while they have open eyes or mouth, and that, subhanallah, because the angel of death would not allow them to even in that
take
moment to close their eyes or to open their eyes. Khalas, your time has just reached and you have to leave this world. Also, to basically straighten the hands and the legs of this individual, deceased one, and to be covered by something, by a blanket, for example, and also to inform the believers and the faithfuls that this individual has passed away, to join his funeral, and also to hasten his burial. Don't delay it for a couple of days or a week or something.
Sheikh, questions coming in from our viewers, mashallah. Keep the questions coming in. This is what we're here for. We're trying to answer as many as we can. So Shia can't pray with Sunnis in Jama'ah prayer or together? No, they can't. I'll save you the time there. Okay, can you sit at a table with work colleagues where alcohol is being consumed?
It's forbidden. You can't sit on this table. You have to leave this table and sit to, let's say, a nearby table or away from them. So it's not considered to be one banquet, one table, one supper.
Separate.
Exactly.
Yeah, inshallah, Sheikh, I mean, I'd ask you that what if you were to stand instead of sitting? But inshallah, on another time, we'll discuss that further. Assalamu alaikum. I don't have any Shia masjids in my city, just have Sunni masjids, like here in my city in Brazil. MashaAllah, we've got viewers in Brazil. Assalamu alaikum to you all. I hope you guys are well. Can I pray in a Sunni masjid? Okay, so unfortunately, this person following the Ahlul Bayt, no Shia mosque at all. Can they go to the Sunni mosque to pray?
As I've said, there's no issue with it. They can pray there. Ala kulli hal, to the minimum required salah, and you just have to leave.
Okay.
So don't sit down and listen to the sermon. You know, sometimes those sermons are poisonous against the Shia.
Yes,
they are depending on the mosque. Yeah,
depending
could be a Wahhabi mosque.
Yeah,
you have to be careful.
Yeah, it's quite.
Not all the statements are right, so you have to be careful. Also, try to work with the brothers, the Shia who are there, to hire a place, even a small, let's say, bedroom that fits 5-6 people, and do the Salah Jama'ah there, do the Ashura there, for example. Try to work hard a bit.
Start small and then
exactly,
inshallah,
it will grow.
And get bigger and better. Another question from one of our viewers: do you still have to pay Khums if you are saving to buy a house, or when you are currently paying a mortgage? So technically, you have a debt. Do you still have to pay Khums money?
Having debt is something separate. Whatever you got surplus income coming, cash in hand, extra you haven't spent, that excess and surplus needs to be khumsed at the end of the year of the khums.
Yes.
Basically.
Okay. Interesting question here, Sheikh, from one of our viewers. Can I still be Shia if I don't want to be part of tabarra, tabarri? If I don't want to take part in tabarri, can I still be a Shia?
Tawalli and tabarri, as the ulama mention in their books, especially in the Risala Amaliyah, it's wajib. One of the obligatory acts or beliefs in which you have to have this tabarra. Otherwise, I mean, you can't ignore tabarra.
Sheikh, I think this person was trying to say is that maybe they believe in tawalla and tabarra in their heart. Maybe they don't openly want to say it out in public, or they don't want to say it, when people say, Allahumma al'an fulan, Allahumma al'an on the, the dushman of the Ahlul Bayt, the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt and so forth. Maybe then they don't want to, verbally say it or take part like that. But maybe in their heart they have full hatred towards the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt and love. In that context, can this person still be a Shia?
There's no issue with it as long as they have this belief and it doesn't contradict with the wajib duty towards the tabarra. Sometimes it becomes wajib.
Yes.
Tabarra becomes wajib in some cases, to show it in some situations, in some cases. But in overall, you have to have at least in your heart this aqidah and belief in tawalla and tabarra. They are wajib, you must believe in them. Otherwise, the faith would be short. The one hasn't got the complete iman in this situation.
Okay, Sheikh, another question. I'm not sure what they're trying to say here. Inshallah, you'll be able to help me, Sheikh, now. Salam, I have heard that in Shia history, the location of Wadaya Barut, I don't know if I'm saying that right, is mentioned. Where is the Wadaya Barut? Is it in Yemen? Wadi Barut, probably.
Wadi Barahut, yeah, Wadi Barahut. You see, we have Wadi Salam in Najaf, where those who are the good faithfuls, they go to this place, gathered in this place, which is part of the paradise in heaven.
Okay.
In Barzakh, in Akhirah.
Yes.
Wadi Barahut, those who are sinners and bad
so
doers, will be taken to that land of Wadi Barahut.
They're buried there, their souls rest over there.
Exactly. So for punishment, they go there.
It's in Yemen?
In Yemen, yeah. And I think in Hadramaut or something like that.
MashaAllah. Ahsan. Okay. Sheikhna, is it makruh or discouraged to bury the deceased at night?
No. Actually, in fact, it's emphasized that the one should hasten and quickly try to bury the deceased as soon as they can, even before the sunset or before the sunrise. So try to basically avoid delaying their burial. So the encouragement is to hasten in their burial.
Inshallah. Ahsan. Sheikhna, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for all your efforts, and thank you for answering multiple questions coming in from all of our viewers, mashallah. Inshallah, keep the questions coming in. Sheikh and I, we do our best to answer all of your questions on the show. Sheikh, behind the scenes, does so much research. It is unbelievable. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does. Behind the scenes, he's doing so many researches for your questions. He's in contact with all of these different maraja, their offices and their officials, in order to get your answers. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp, the email address. Send them in via the YouTube links in the comment section. Whether you're watching on Facebook Live, put it in the comment section. It is our duty to find your answer. Inshallah, we'll do our very best to answer all of your questions. If we couldn't answer your question today, inshallah, tune in on Wednesday, 6:30 here. Imam Hussein TV3 will be answering those questions, inshallah. Until then, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
have a duty towards the preservation and the propagation of the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Indeed, one of the best ways to work towards the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif is through promoting the values of Karbala. Imam Hussein Media Group is the only Shia television network that broadcasts globally in 5 different languages: Arabic, Farsi, Turkish, Urdu, and English. We are appealing to the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam worldwide to support the channel